left me high and dry. I've been going through the ringer. I need you in my life. Time seems crazy. I'm stranded in the desert. This life gets so hot, I need a sip of you, God. Cause you're like water when I'm thirsty, yeah. Drink, drink. You're like water when I'm thirsty. Drink, drink. Hey. Ooh. It's warm down here. It's hard to breathe. It's burning my eyes, Lord. So hard to see. I'm quite parched now. I need a saying. Come quench my thirst, Lord. Because you're like water for the thirsty. I drink, I drink. You're like water for the thirsty. I drink, I drink. You're like water for the thirsty. I drink, I drink. Water for the thirsty, yeah. I drink,
it's like water for the thirsty. Truthfully, our souls parched. You will find them when you seek them with your whole heart. It's so hard to stay consistent through the word I'm reading. Cause the time is coming soon when every eye gon' see him in the clouds above. This is about a love that quenches the thirst, but the world offers is not enough. Taste and see from this fountain spring, you'll be lining up to get a drink, refreshing ink flowing out of cups. This life they gotta touch, to liberate them out of cuffs. The faith is undivided trust, created us up out of dust. He's worthy of fresh well of living water for the thirsty. Give her honor the first thing that I do when I'm waking up. It's everlasting life to all who desire to drink it up.
You're like water when I'm thirsty. Drink. You're like water when I'm thirsty. Drink. Like water when I'm thirsty. Drink. You're like water when I'm thirsty. Drink. Been a hard weekend.
Look who saves the day. Then we
That's recording, finally.
Y'all ain't ready for this voice. Y'all ain't ready for my Kelly Bryce.
In fact, I think you ought to make her deputy right now.
You said do dogs stop shedding? Mine did.
I thought that, like, isn't that temporary though?
Nope, he's not supposed to.
See, that's your ram in the thicket.
Praise the Lord.
Amen.
Good night, everybody. Welcome to Water for the Thirsty. My name is Jared. I'm the host facilitator, where we come together to just kind of talk about the stuff that we're learning as we read the Bible together. We want to get to know Jesus better. We want to be more faithful followers of Him, and we know it begins here. So we follow a reading plan. We read it in the week separately, and then on the first and third Fridays we come here and we chop it up. We ask questions, we share insights, we share inspirations, we share perspectives, that kind of stuff. With me tonight is a regular crew, minus Kenrick, who's on assignment. We have Shanice,
Hi.
Sharika, and Pops. While you're watching us dialogue about the stuff we're reading, there's a large community of people reading with us who often tune in, including you. So if you, at any point you want to share something from your reading, Sharika's monitoring the chat group. Please log into the chat and share your thoughts or your questions, or as we dialogue, you can also share your contributions to the conversation in there. We look forward to hearing from you. That being said, I'm going to start with Pops. Normally we start, Sharika's on point. Are you on point, Sharika?
You can alley-oop.
You on point, Sharika?
But you know how I roll, man.
Sharika is missing the call and response. You on point,
I'm the
Sharika?
fill-in guy.
I'm giving you the stiff arm right now.
You're supposed to say all the time, Jared.
All the time, Jared.
Oh, man.
All the time.
Call and response, you know.
You're right.
Right.
I'm slipping on my stuff.
You're slipping on your stuff.
Yeah.
But no, we're going to start with Pops today. Tell me what's been happening. Oh, we have been in Deuteronomy, one of my favorite books. Matthew, the first gospel, according to Matthew, and Psalms. I think we were in Numbers last time, or we were in Deuteronomy the last time we met. So, so that's all that we've read. Yes, that's limited scope today. All conversations going to be coming from there. Pops, you said you understood why Deuteronomy is one of my favorites, but you shared a slightly different perspective, or at least you thought you shared a slightly different perspective as to why that was.
Yeah, I did.
How you liking it?
It's heretofore, it has never been a book that I spent a lot of time on, because I never make it.
What, you normally cap out the Leviticus?
You get the numbers, it's over. But this time I've been reading and I really enjoyed the book. I like the way it's outlined and how Moses, just before they're about to go into the promised land, reminds them of what God had done for them and what had happened with the folks after God had delivered them from Egypt and their wilderness experience, and that as they prepare to go and take the land, that unless they do what God would have them to do, obey His commandments, His statutes, and His laws, and moving forward, that the same thing that happened to the folks that didn't make it will often happen to them, that will either be blessed or cursed. And that's a summary, but the details were just enlightening, the way and how God, I forget which chapter it was, but He gave them what would happen if He blessed them, and then gave them the exact same thing if they didn't do. They would be cursed in the exact same way. I just thought that was awesome.
What did that do for your idea of God knowing the future? How did that inform the thought that God knows the future, since He gave them two alternate potential futures?
I don't quite understand the question in that He's all-knowing, and of course He knows the end from the beginning, so I'm not quite sure what you're asking.
Well, people say God knows the future, so He knows they're going to go this route.
Oh.
But since He's told them what's going to happen with this, no matter which choice they make.
In spite of Him knowing the future, it is always predicated on man's choice. Man is always, humanity is always given the choice as to what will ultimately happen to them, even though God already knows what they will, the ultimate decision that they will make.
So do you get the sense that there were at least two futures for them?
Yes.
And He knew what each one would look like depending on their choice?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I do, yes.
You didn't make this any fun, but that's okay.
Okay, well, to make it a little bit more fun, a lot of people...
I'm messing with you. I'm
I'm not a fun guy when it comes to
yeah. Well, a lot of people, they think that that's not the reality. They think that God is just playing a game, and that there's a lot of stupidity in it, and that, if you do this, then this will happen. If you do that, I'll change my mind. And that what really happens is Deuteronomy shows us how wonderful God is in giving us the power of choice.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't actually agree with the reality that that's what has happened, that God has given us the power of choice. But there are certain things that He knows. And it's not that He just sees into the future. He knows the reality of who we are, our personalities, and what we have chosen not to let go of. There's certain things that if I do it this way, I know my husband is going to follow suit and do it that way. And he'll say something like, okay, I have to switch it up because I'm getting predictable. I'm like, dude, you've been predictable for a long time. But, you know, I just didn't let you know as much because it was okay. It was cute the first 4 years. But now, you know, year 16, you know, he says, I got to switch it up. I'm like, you know, you couldn't switch it up if you wanted to.
There you go.
You know, because that's his personality. And God knows our personalities. But there's certain things whereas it's just like, okay, if you want this, if you want a different outcome, this will be the outcome if you change your mind. And there have been times when even my husband has changed his mind to get a different outcome.
Yep.
Just to see if there's a different outcome.
Yep.
You know? And that's how we are too. And God says, listen, I just want you to know there is a different outcome if you do it differently.
Actually, it was liberating to me. I know a lot of folks can't, you know, they can't, what's the word I'm looking for? Fathom. See, predictable. The idea that God could actually know what I'm going to do ahead of time and yet not be in control of my decision making. And this my Tayloristic view is that, see, we want other people to be in control of our decision making. Therefore, we can look for a place to blame.
Genesis 3. I like it. I just like that there were two alternate futures, and what future manifested was based on their choice. So,
yeah, that was fascinating.
Yeah. Even though I didn't like everything in there.
What didn't you like?
Not at all.
Yeah, I didn't like everything in there. I mean, there are certain things where you knew. Okay, one thing I didn't like. My husband is one of 5 sons, and my mother-in-law has 1 daughter.
He didn't like the idea you have to be past to one of them if he dies.
And so
you already had kids. You're good.
Listen,
you're good.
Can you listen? Because when I read the Bible, I've gotten better at saying, "What if that was me?" You know, because sometimes we read it and we're like, "Oh, that's easy, whatever," and move on. But if you're like, "What if that was me?" How would I feel? Now, of course, all the Mitchells are just gorgeous, but my husband's the most handsome one, right? So, so I was just like, how would I feel if we're living on the same property, right? And my husband passes away, and his brother lives on the same property, and because, you know, I don't want to be homeless, and he doesn't want to split the land up with me, I have to marry him. I'm just like, that is messed up. Why can't I just have this? Why can't you just quarter it? Give me a quarter then, you know, or something, or something like that, so that I still have the choice. But then I looked also in terms of the way God looked at it, in terms of, listen, this is not how I plan things. You know, because of sin, you will starve to death. You know, you will starve to death if you don't marry him, because you know, you have nothing. And this is not the way I intended it, but I'm making this a law for your benefit. Because if I didn't, there'll be a lot more widows. There'll be a lot more people who need to be taken care of, and a lot more people escaping their responsibilities.
Do you think your mindset would have been different if you lived in those times?
Of course.
Because the woman, at least based on the stories in the Bible, the way they felt about having kids and all those kinds of things, it felt like, you know, that's what they... Let's take the story of Tamar, for example. Tamar, because this happened to her.
Yes.
You know, her husband died. She didn't have any children. The next guy in line didn't give her any children. The father promised to give the youngest son when he grew up. That didn't happen. And she was like, well, I need something. And ended up arranging to sleep with the guy to make sure she had something. So
she ended up in prostitution. She ended up prostituting herself. And because...
you got prostitution out of that story?
You didn't get it?
No, that was...
She covered her face. And she was
she dressed up like a prostitute, sat by the side of the road.
You have to make a mental picture of it. You didn't see her say...
She did.
I didn't.
Because that's exactly what did happen. Because when he came back to drop off the stuff, you said, what happened to the temple prostitute that used to be here?
And she took a staff. She's like, he didn't have no money. He didn't have... She's like, it's okay. Give me a staff. And remember, men carved out stuff and got the... So she had his staff. And she was pregnant, and she's happy about that because now it's like tick-tock, biological clock, I'm good.
And somebody testifies that she was pregnant.
And he's going to have her killed because he's just like, she's a whore. She's over here doing, and she didn't even realize it was him. So then, and so now, but back then, women had to be clever like that because the laws were not for them. And even though God did not intend for the laws to be like that, he knew that it's easier to make laws that fit into what you're going to do anyway to help those who will be oppressed than it is to completely change the laws that you weren't listening to in the first place. Because he said from the beginning, okay, here's Adam, here's Eve. You know?
You really hit on something. And one thing, Jared and I have had the discussion that what has really been a benefit in taking a holistic approach to reading the Bible, you begin to see God in a different light and how he operates in a different light. Because when we take our little text and isolate the text, we say we must act this way and no other way, and God don't tolerate anything else but this way. But as you read the scriptures, you see now God was meeting people where they were, and he dealt with them where they were. His idea was always something else. Even like in Deuteronomy, this 24 is the law of divorce. Well, when they approached Jesus back in Matthew 19, he said, well, is it lawful? And blah, blah, blah. And Jesus said, well, out of the hardness of your heart, Moses allowed these things. Mm-hmm. But in the beginning, as you just said,
yes.
In the beginning, it was not so.
It was not so. And it was never intended.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where working with people is a real challenge. I will tell you, I will admit something about Deuteronomy and how Facebook has made me. It has changed me. It has made me less of a people person. and I mean, it's funny to you, but I actually cried about it one day. I was just like, I'm a person who I speak my mind. I believe I love people enough that, if I had something, Sharika, I would call Sharika and be like, are we good? And if I said something, I expect her to say something to me. I don't expect her to be like, look at me, crazy, say nothing to me, and then put this whole spiel on Facebook. You know what I mean? And then be like, and I'm like, wait a minute. Is that me? Or is it somebody else? Oh, that's not me. But still, I look at the person like, wait a minute. Why do you need this big audience? Why can't you just talk to the person? You went through this whole spiel of, if you say this to me or but you didn't say anything to the person who offended you.
Nope.
So you just said this to 300 people, and now we all looking at ourselves like, did I say something? Mm-hmm. So I walk into, work or school or church or Target, and I'm just like, let me not say nothing, because I don't know what, I don't know if what I said triggered that, and I don't care about it end up on Facebook, but I care about you being so hurt and feeling like you can't talk to me, but you have to tell everyone else, and then it becomes public knowledge. It's like your life is syndicated. If I make a mistake and I say something to you, it's syndicated now. It's like 5 years ago I said this. I mean, pictures. You have pictures and pictures you with somebody, and you're like this, and then it says 3 years ago you became this person's friend on Facebook and shows you, smiling with them, and you're like, oh, they don't like me anymore. Wow, that's deep. So in Deuteronomy, all these rules were put into place not because of the way things were supposed to be, but because God said, you know what, y'all not listening anyway. Y'all are doing things haphazard. You're not communicating well with each other. You're not respecting each other and loving each other the way you're supposed to. So I have to put these things into place to be the barrier between you getting even worse.
And see, I'm just the opposite of what you just said. I'm becoming more of a people person, because he knows by nature I'm not a people person. I mean, I didn't care 2 cents about people. I mean, seriously. I mean,
I can understand. I know people like that.
You're not alone.
She's like, I can't.
That's why we close.
We don't say.
Because I know where she been. I've been there. But as I read the Word of God and how God just dealt with all kind of jacked up,
Yes.
messed up folks, man,
Yes.
and just met them where they were.
Met
See,
them
too
where they
often
were.
in church, we want everybody to be on the high plane
Yes.
of spirituality, and it's just not the case. Nor is it ever going
It's
to
not
be
going to.
the case.
Yes. We know.
Especially if you there.
Yes.
And when I mean you, me.
Yeah, you.
He said, if you're looking for a purpose, I'm talking about me. If you're looking for a perfect church, when you find it, it will cease to exist the day you enter.
Wow, see, that is deep. That is, and so Deuteronomy had all these regulations to keep people who are not listening in some type of order.
You know what's the interesting part about that? They had new regulations. They remind us of the regulations that came in Leviticus and Numbers.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Like Dorch says, I found it interesting that in Deuteronomy is how God had constantly reminded the Israelites to steer away from sexual, incestual, and homosexual sins.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
too. That too.
And idol worship.
That too.
And
That too.
idol
Yeah.
worship.
Yeah. And I mean. I mean, all sins bridge. Like I think I like to look at those that don't affect me personally, and those seem like the worst ones because I don't do them. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
But for someone
But
else,
you do.
who, huh?
But you do.
No, I don't.
Yeah, but you do.
I don't
I
do that.
understand what you do.
No, you about to don't
No.
play with me. You trying to start trouble.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
I'm
yes,
not.
yes,
He's trying to say
yes.
all sins connected, but it's not. You
They
have
are.
individual sins. You have
They're just
individual sins,
manifestations.
and
It's
there's
like-
certain things that I'm not tempted. I think Sharika is fine,
That's like
but
saying,
I'm not gonna touch her.
that's like
right?
saying shooting
So,
yourself in the head is worse than eating cheeseburgers and dying of heart
but that's what I'm saying.
You know,
What I'm
it's the same thing.
I'm not.
6
I
million ways
didn't
to
say
die.
no.
Choose
You.
one.
I didn't say. I didn't say they were
You know what I'm
all
saying?
that. I said there's certain things that don't tempt me.
Yeah, shooting
Like,
myself in the
shooting
head
my
doesn't
head-
tempt me.
Shooting
Eating that
myself in the
burger
head
does.
not tempt me. Eating a burger, I'm hungry. I'm hungry.
I'm going to have to agree with Jared. I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
There are only 3 sins in the world anyway. The only
Yes.
3.
Yes, against God.
No. Lust of the flesh, lust of the eye, and the pride of life. And every sin you do, they're going to fall in one of those categories.
That's just like
I
that's
even
just like
went through that and
12-step
said,
programs.
There's
And,
only one real sin.
No.
See-
I'm going biblical. Okay? Lust of the flesh, lust of the eye, and the pride of life. You talking about the burger. That's that lust of the flesh. Right? I'm envious of Shonice's financial success. And look at the the temptations Jesus met. They all came in those 3 categories. Ultimately, it's not but one sin, but the Lord biblically has broken them down into 3 categories. And everything we do, check it out. Look, analyze it. Everything we do will fall in one of those 3 categories.
that's a good sermon. That's a good sermon. And yet we have to be more specific because, I can rationalize the difference between lust of the flesh this time and being genuinely helpful to someone and, making
you
sure
can
that I'm not going to
rationalize.
starve.
Yeah, sin
You know
has
what I mean?
always been rationalized.
So that's why God specifies certain things. I mean, Deuteronomy has a lot of specifics. So, like Michael Dorch said, he pointed out some of the specifics. But I see a lot of specifics for each sin. Like each of the 10. The 10.
We're not in disagreement.
No, we're not in disagreement.
Because, God has to specify certain
yes,
details.
yes.
Ways to deal with each manifestation.
Yes.
Manifestation.
Yes.
Lust of the flesh, lust of the eye, and the pride of life.
Yes.
Sharika, you've been quiet. How's it been treating you?
So I had two. I was in Matthew the whole time. I was arguing with my mother half the time too. To be quite honest.
She's reading with us?
I forced her.
Awesome.
What's up, Mom? Welcome.
It started with Easter, right? And what that is, and I always say my grandmother, if she doesn't make it to heaven, I ain't going. Forget it. Just count me out. but she's a Sunday worshiper.
If she has a bigger what?
If she doesn't make it to heaven, count me out. Just tell me now.
Okay.
I'm not making it. My brother not making it.
Okay.
Ain't nobody making it.
Because she has a heart. Because yeah,
Family friendly.
I get it.
Family friendly show.
I got it. I got it. I was leaving it alone.
So, Grandma started going to church Palm Sunday. That's the Sunday before Easter. And so I was like, Mom, what is Palm Sunday? She's like, I don't know. I was like, so when did Jesus ride the donkey into Jerusalem? Is it Jerusalem? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She goes, Thursday. I said, no, Dred, that couldn't be Thursday. So I was like, because that just doesn't add up. But she's like, you're right. Wednesday. I was like, now you're just picking fruit. I'm like, what is it? So we spent a lot of time trying to figure out what day it was because, you know, for some reason, her and I were fascinated with how the days line up. And it was more so to prepare ourselves for a conversation with my grandmother as to why Grandma went to church every day from Palm Sunday to Resurrection Sunday. Every day. And every day has some sort of significance, and we just didn't have enough information to have an informed conversation with her. Mm-hmm. So we don't get to anything of, I don't want to say substance, but we don't get to anything that's helpful way until like 21 or something.
But we didn't get that far yet.
Yes, we did. We in 23. I actually went back and she read in John and everything. So that's really, I'm just waiting. I'm trying not to read ahead so that I can kill her argument of Wednesday because I think it's Tuesday. But before that, so anybody who knows, please let me know because I want to have a serious conversation with my grandmother about it. Not to convince her to change, but more so to understand where she's coming from. And she's at a point, in my opinion, she's at a point that she's open-minded. Not necessarily Sabbath or whatever, just open-minded to reasoning with people. So very important to me. But what caught me in Matthew was Jesus' response after John died.
John the Baptist?
Yo!
Oh, man. Me and my husband spent so much time on that whole thing.
That messed me up the first time I really, really read it.
I was just like, what man didn't even care? Just
Go ahead. No. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Hold on. I'm about to find it. I was just like, yo, Dred, that was supposed to be the homie.
That's the cousin.
Yeah,
cousin.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And when you read it, when you really read it, I'm gonna let you play with that for a little bit. But then I read it and I read it again, and I was like, oh, I get
14.
it. Yeah, you'll get it. Okay. Let's dissect that a little bit. Okay.
Cold-blooded.
It was cold-blooded.
Okay. So read from 10, right?
Right, 10. Boom.
There you go.
He sent and had John beheaded. Oh, for those who don't know, Herod wanted to kill him, couldn't kill him because he was afraid of the people. But Herod got drunk, and he liked Herod's wife's daughter, had to give her whatever because she was so great. And then she went to her mom, and her mom said, give me the head of John the Baptist. So he couldn't go back on it because it's his word. This is how John the Baptist gets beheaded. Boom. He sent and had John beheaded in prison, and his head was brought on a platter and given to the girl, and she brought it to her mother. And the disciples came and took the body and buried it, and they went and told Jesus. And when Jesus heard this, he withdrew.
See?
That's it!
No, finish.
From there in a boat to a desolate place by himself. When the crowd heard it, they followed him on foot to the towns. And he goes off into something else.
Okay, no, but it is important. It is important. And then, because if you read the whole thing down, I read the whole thing down because my husband and I were arguing over it. Because, okay, I want you to get your point through before I change my points.
That's right. Gotta get a point.
It's cold-blooded. Like, Jesus cried over Lazarus, Joe. He cried over Lazarus. John, in my opinion, was a bigger homie.
That's
Lazarus.
Yeah.
Your cousin.
You want to see
you had a connection at the pool, you know.
At birth, he jumped.
You had birth jumping, and he died for you. He's in prison for you. You didn't even get him out, so he's kind of like, bro.
Get him out, didn't even go visit.
No visiting, no getting him out, no nothing.
Yeah,
Everybody else
when John sends his disciples to
Are you the one that I'm waiting for?
He sends him back with
Send-
a message.
with the
So he can go.
Doesn't go,
Never
go talk
visit
to him for me.
his homie.
And then he
His
dies.
family, his blood.
Well, but
His first
homie's
cousin.
even closer than a family.
His first cousin. That was his.
You can't choose your family.
But you can choose the homie. Homie's over moving along. So
Look at it. But look at it. But look at it. But look at it. Look at it. Look at it. Go ahead.
Are you finished?
there's no known reaction from Jesus that John died. It was one of those.
I disagree.
Okay, no, I don't agree.
Later.
Bet.
That's what I said. If you read the whole
Verse
thing.
13 and
Yeah. Now,
and
I mean, he went off into a desolate place by himself.
no, but it says as soon as he heard. So
verse
this is one of those cases where, you know, some of us, when we mourn, we want to be with our girls, we want to talk, he heard, it says, as soon as Jesus heard the news, he went off by himself
Yep.
in a boat to a remote area to be alone. So we don't know what, his grief was such, he didn't even want you to see it. So the disciples can't even witness, they can't tell you what he did because he ditched them. He was just like, oh, you know, and the funeral was over. They buried the body. It was nothing else for him to do. So he actually left them and went off by himself. So they can't even say he cried and he prayed and he ditched them. All they can tell you is
here's what's
he's
interesting.
gone.
He went off to try and be by himself.
Yes.
And people came to him and he put aside how he was feeling to minister to people. That messed me up this time around because I didn't see that before.
Yes.
He was in his period of mourning and he said he put his mourning on pause to have
help the
compassion
people.
on the people.
Yes.
And then later on in 22 and 23, that's how he ended up walking on the water because he went and continued his mourning and prayer later on. Once he dealt with the people, he came back to deal with that.
He went back and he prayed some more and he had time to himself.
Yeah.
And that's what I was gonna get to. My husband and I fuss about that all the time because that wasn't the right thing to say.
Especially not on camera.
Sorry. Because he was like, my husband he'll be like, you know what, like me, I'm like, somebody died in our family. And you are at the church until 6:30. I need you to come home. I need you to look on I need you to help with the obituary. I need you to help it. And he's just like,
They're dead.
he's just like, tomorrow. And I'm just like, no, today.
You know what it reminded me of?
Yeah, he's just like, this is ministry. This is how ministry is. It's not that I'm not mourning. It's not that I'm not sad, but I have things to do. You know, life still goes on for me until I'm done. And I'm just like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And I'll say something like, did you even tell anyone, like your aunt passed away? Did you even say anything to them? You know, the people who are calling you and talk to you for 2 hours about their stuff. Did you say, hey, my aunt died? He's like, no, because that's not for them. But he's like, Jesus didn't say my cousin died. Guys, give me a minute. My cousin died. You know, I know you're crippled. I know you're blind. And so he's like, and you know, I know you have an issue of blood. You're hemorrhaging, you know, but just give me a couple of days. You know, he's just like, no, he healed them. And so.
And fed them.
And fed them and everything.
I saw it differently. I mean, two ways I saw two things came to mind. It was David. David came to mind when his son finally died. And he was like, well, I'm hungry. Like, where's this morning? He's like, he's dead now, so what's the point?
I just want you to know I will mourn a little longer than that.
That's competition.
And then I thought about Lazarus. While Lazarus, of course, raising Lazarus from the dead was to show God's power. But he did stop and allowed us to see him weep. And
I think we should reread that story because
he didn't weep on behalf of Lazarus, though.
no, he didn't.
No,
He
so
was
that's
frustrated.
right.
That was a frustrated.
It was a frustrated. But what I'm saying, it was a pause in his. There was acknowledgement of death. Whether I was angry about your reaction to be like, "Are you really interrupting me for this?" Because I'll get to it when I can.
It wasn't because he stayed 2 days to wait until Lazarus died.
There was still a reaction though.
Yeah, but his reaction was to
Well,
keep.
not-
His
not-
reaction was
not to the family members.
exactly, and
His reaction
reaction was this.
it's the same thing. I'm
He
working.
kept right back on,
He's like,
and
"I'm
then he
working."
went there.
Yeah.
And what I saw, and most Bibles don't really show if you don't read it correctly, is that when Jesus got there, he was crying because he
was
was
frustrated.
He was frustrated that the people were balling down the place. He wasn't crying because he was sad Lazarus was dead.
No,
Yeah,
he wasn't.
No,
he wasn't
no,
sad that Lazarus was dead.
no. I
Would you like
think
to read it together?
we can read it, but I think it was a whole
Well,
bunch.
when
It
you
was
guys
more than
finish
just that.
talking, we can't
So
go
we
to
can read it?
Lazarus till I get my input on this.
No,
Okay,
I'm just saying what was interesting
bide
to
my
me
time.
here is
Just say he waits impatiently.
Always.
this is probably inappropriate. You ever heard the song "The Mission" by the Marleys, Damien and Steve?
I'm gonna check it out after this.
Okay.
See, now you're having me looking this music up on Saturday.
They talk
Research.
about the mission, and they talk about their mission across the island of Jamaica, and they talk about the different locations in each town and what needs to happen, and they're dedicated to the mission. And it reminded me here why I don't know, but I'm obsessed with Damien Brown. Jesus just like, I'm on a mission. If you dead, sorry. If you dead, my bad. And it was just one of those like mission. And also on top of it,
this is what she
yeah, this is what I said.
did.
And then also
You
as you
can't
go
say no to
further,
that.
his mom shows up with his brothers and everything, and everyone's like, "Yo, you met your mom?" She's like, "Everybody here, my mom, son. Everybody. Like, nothing special about her, folks. On a mission, you know. Like, it just he's unfazed by anything that's going on, and he's more frustrated by the fact that you're
I'm gonna
faced
shake
by
your
it.
hand because we never had this conversation, and that was the same observation that I made the first couple of times I read this.
It's just
Well,
like,
I
you know,
disagree
I'm
with
not
you.
saying it's right. I'm not saying
But
it's
I
wrong. It's
respect
just
your right to
But
have that view.
but when you read it, but see, the thing is, when I say the view, it's one thing to have the view when something's not clear, but then whenever you see it, like immediately after this, Jesus made his disciples get back into the boat and go across. He knew when he had enough. He knew when he needed to take more time for himself. So he even sent them, get in the boat, go back across,
Right.
so I can be here.
After the mission.
I'm gonna spend a night here by myself.
After
You know,
But it still didn't interrupt the mission.
It didn't interrupt the
The
mission.
mission wasn't
It was when he
interrupted.
had a pause.
You're right. But what I'm saying is, this wasn't a cold-hearted. Okay, you dead. So what?
No,
It's
I
okay.
don't
Keep
think she
moving.
was
That's not what I was saying. I'm not saying that he didn't feel it. It's just that I'm on a mission.
I'm keeping focus. He had focus.
I mean, for example, Jewish have to bury their dead within 24 hours of death, if I remember correctly. The Jews. So John Baptist had to be buried with a certain amount of time. But they have a mourning period just like everybody else. My man could have go talk to, uncle, aunts, cut a little bread, something. Nope. I got a mission to do. He could have, Jesus himself could have dismissed all the crowd. He didn't have to cater to them at that point. Nope. He made sure he talked to them. He fed them. Everybody good. Everybody, okay.
And then
Then, as I'm time for night, whether it's when I'm ready to sleep or whatever, we're going back to wherever we go, he's like, okay, I have a moment to do whatever I need to do. We don't know what that is, but his
it
mission...
involved praying.
Well, yes, it involved prayer. We don't know if it was mourn or whatever, but he talked to his father, which he did often. It's just, nothing interrupted the mission. At any point throughout this, it's just... When I have free time, if someone had knocked buck up at him that night, he would have stopped the prayer and would have dealt with them. Because that's
I believe so. And so we are not in disagreement. My thing is, he did take
He's
time.
disagreeing though.
My thing is, because I thought they were saying he was just like, whatever,
No,
keep going.
he did take time.
He took time more than once.
Correct.
And to mourn for himself, to speak, to talk to God about it, to pray about
To
it.
deal with whatever.
And there was one time when we have no idea exactly what happened, if he wept or not, or if he was just like, "Come on, for real, Lord, John of all people." And I mean, that whole John the Baptist that brought up a lot of different things for us, because I think last year we spoke about couldn't God just give John a little nudge and be like, yo, just be quiet for a minute. just be quiet for a minute. If you're quiet, you did your due. You go back into the woods. You're gonna find a chick out there. You're gonna have kids, and you're gonna live an old life, and nobody's gonna even know when you die because you're gonna just be out in the woods. And so we're talking. My husband and I are talking like that. Like, come on. John was so in the mission that he sees this guy messing with his sister-in-law, and instead of just saying, everybody else sees it too. We all know he wrong. He know he wrong. She know he wrong. And she's one of those kind of women who she gonna mess.
That wasn't part of the mission,
She gonna mess me up. So in my head, and that's what the discussion is. It's like, is that part? Is that part of the mission? Like that one last person. Like, there's some people who you see them and they're doing something. I'm like, mind your business. Let's mind our business. Let's mind our business. Don't say nothing to them. They know they're wrong. Everybody's know they're wrong.
Because John could have sent a message to Herod himself, like, I know you know, and leave it there. He didn't have to make a big scene over it. He didn't have to. That was not a part of the mission.
Who knows how big the scene was? All we know is she got mad because she didn't want him minding her business.
Why this guy want him?
Because us. You know us women. It could have been just a few family members who he said it in front of. And if you offended me and I think you should have mind your business, I'm going to get you back.
It had to be bigger than a few family members, though, because if I'm queen of that time.
Now. Yeah.
Right? If I'm queen of that time, I can shut up everybody in this court. Everybody in this court got it. They could be silenced easy. Dead. It don't matter what happened.
Yes.
It had to be outside people. It had to be talking in the streets that I have control, but I don't have enough control. So I have to get rid of the voice that's allowing this to go through. It had to be a group of people. Because anybody within my courts, they know that I have the opportunity to kill them at any point. Because you're under my ruling. The king do his own thing. And I say I want this person dead, no problem. It ain't nothing to a G. It's one of the reasons why they had to treat Jesus the way they did. Mm-hmm. Not within the ruling court, not a Pharisee, not a Roman, not anything. He's out in the streets making noise. I got to figure out how to bring him into the court. Mm-hmm. To prove him wrong here, to take him out. Mm-hmm. So it was a big group of people. John, that was not a part of the mission for John. But Truly, wait 1 second. Truly here said she wants to go back to verse 14, and Jesus went out. It could have been a couple of minutes. It could have been a couple of hours. It could have been much later in the day. Mm-hmm. She's saying it wasn't necessarily an immediate response.
Good catch.
Wait. What do you mean? It could have been a couple of hours.
It says, and when Jesus heard.
Mine said that's the difference in my Bible. My Bible says, as soon as Jesus heard the news, he went off by himself in a boat. So that's where my bias lies too, because my Bible says as soon as he heard. So once he got the news, he took a moment to himself.
See, mine says when Jesus heard this.
Yeah. So I mean,
but it doesn't mean when. You know when. What I think she's saying is, we don't know when he heard.
Oh, we don't actually. I thought I heard her saying we don't know how long he was alone before the crowds came. Yeah. That's what I thought I heard her saying.
No, and when Jesus went out is what she quoted. Could have been a couple minutes.
Right.
Could have been a couple hours.
It could have been a couple minutes that he was alone, that he went out.
Yeah. Because the crowds. It says, but when the crowds heard where he was headed, and that's the thing for us. I mean, timing is something that humans put things on, and we can't really put it on for someone else, but we do. There's etiquette in timing. Mm-hmm.
We know he was interrupted.
We know he was interrupted
because he needed some more time afterwards.
Yeah.
Also, Mario.
Hi, Mario.
This is an important point for Christians to understand. God's plan of salvation must be carried out regardless of what happens around us. His salvation is both macro and micro. Macro focus is the salvation of whosoever will, and micro focus saving you. When we understand this, we will have far less doubt as to whether or not he's working on our behalf in our day-to-day life.
Yes.
Word.
Very well wrote it.
Somehow I feel the elder disagreeing over there. No,
the elder just waiting his turn. Nice.
Tag team.
There
you go.
You know how I do.
He's in.
Easy. First off, that's why I love this, and I love reading the Bible holistically now, and I love reading it contextually.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff we're reading into, I try to stay within the text.
Okay.
I would Shonice in this regard. When he heard it, when he heard it, he departed. Whatever version you want to use. To me, that shows compassion.
Yes, yes.
Okay?
He was sad.
I mean, shows his emotions
Yes.
involved in the death of John.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And went to a deserted place by himself.
Yes.
I can't relate to everybody else, but when I got issues going on, I'm not a crowd person. I didn't like people anyway.
Right.
Shariq.
So
So
we
you
gonna
know
do
when I'm
further.
going through some stuff, leave me alone. You want me to get better? Leave me alone. Oh, he over in this corner. Okay,
Amen. Just
he'll
leave
be
me over
okay.
there. Leave me over there.
Jesus tried to get away. But the Bible, my Bible says, but when they heard, they followed. That wasn't a missionary act on his part in dealing with these folks. That was a compassionate act on his part dealing with these folks.
But the
Because-
compassion was part of his mission.
well, but no,
Let him finish,
no,
let him
in
finish.
this case,
Let him
I
finish.
disagree.
Let him finish.
I be the compassion was not a part of his mission. The compassion was a part of his makeup, who he was.
That was a part of his mission to reveal.
Let him finish, Jared.
We would agree to disagree in this particular case. We know Jesus says, "My meat to come to do the will of him that sent me."
No, that's not what I'm saying.
I understand what you're saying. You're saying his compassion is a part of his mission. I don't disagree, but his mission is a part of who he was. The mission and the character and the compassion is all in one.
Agreed.
But what I'm saying in this particular case, he wasn't about doing the mission, right? He was about doing the emotion. But as a result of him doing the emotion, the folks didn't care. They
Exactly.
wanted what they wanted anyway. And because of who he was and who he is, he could not deny them.
That's what we were saying.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
But then he goes on to say that the hour was late and he's in a deserted place. Well, you're not in a deserted place after you hearing that somebody that you love died because you on the mission.
But we agreeing. We agreeing.
But that's why I say I did not disagree. What I'm saying is I'm not reading anything other than what's in the text. Okay? I'm staying within this text, in the context of this text, where I'm drawing my conclusion. Okay? You seem to be focused, in my opinion, on the mission in this situation. In my opinion. Can't take away that. In my opinion, you focusing on the mission. Jesus about his mission regardless of what's going on. In my opinion, in this particular case, he acted in the mission out of his compassion as opposed to it was a mission primary. It was mission secondary, in my view.
Well, what we were saying was, yes, he heard the news, went away to deal with his emotions, but because of his mission focus, when a situation presented himself, he put himself and his emotions on pause, just because of his compassion, to deal with this, and then went back to
And
deal
what I'm
with that.
saying, in my opinion, that was more of an act of character as opposed to his coming here in the first place. Okay? Now you can agree, we can agree to disagree, and that's what we will be. I believe character was primary in this case rather than mission driven.
And that's where I have the slither to disagree, with my husband, like, because you and Shariq would say, you focus on the mission. Me, I'm like, okay, your compassion is going to let you do this. Your mission stays the same, but you can take a minute. So my thing is, because part of your mission that's a little different is to take care of yourself so that you're also here for me and for them. You know what I mean? Well, we have children, for them. And in order for you to be healthy, to complete the mission, I need for you to take a moment, and for the relationships that are surrounded in this. See, these relationships, the whole John dying, no one was going to fault Jesus. No one's going to fault him. The place where he died, all that kind of stuff, their culture, it was just like, just tell him so he knows, he'll deal with it on his own. They didn't get together and have, certain cultures, if someone passed away, for 9 nights after, the family gets together and celebrates their life. You know what I mean? And so, don't call him during that time. And so my thing is, the difference between culture and compassion, it doesn't take away your compassion if you adhere to what's going to be okay for you at that time. And so I'm saying that because some people would be like Jesus and say, oh, if people call me, I have to take the call. And me, I'm like, you better turn that phone off. You know what I mean? You better turn that phone off because right now is not the time for that. And I'm just talking about the human element of it all.
It depends.
Because some people do the same thing with their jobs. I have to work, and it might not even have to deal with God. It has to do with they started this business and somebody passed away and they're still moving forward and they don't realize the mental and emotional hindrances that will happen later because they didn't stop in that moment and say, let me take a minute. And I want people to see that Jesus took a minute. He might not have needed as much of a minute as everyone else. And then when he did what he needed to do, he took another minute. And he ended up spending the night by himself. He sent them away.
And the author could have very well said, and even though John had died and he was sad about his death and he wanted to get away and mourn a minute, when the people came, his mission drove him to keep on working. Didn't say that. Said his compassion.
I'm just saying his compassion was driving all the other things he was doing.
And you entitled to your view.
Yeah, I don't have any disagreements with you guys. I just wanted to fit in. I just wanted
Because
to fit that in with
my
ministry.
view, there are those who will use this as an excuse to ignore stuff.
Yeah.
But you know what's interesting though? It depends
Yes.
on the personality. I mean, because they're I'm rule number one. A lot of things happen in life, and I'm like, whatever, leave it alone. It just doesn't seem like that. I may tell Shawnice, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, Rick, I can't believe it." I'm like, whatever. And so,
She's like, yeah, it's a normal day.
it's a normal day.
It's a
But
normal
let me say
day.
this. Let me say this, Sheree. My comments is coming from a person who's a compassion, if that's such a term.
Yeah.
I don't have much compassion. It's hard. You know what
I'm the worst.
In time,
I have a lot,
In
though.
time past,
Yeah.
I've grown in compassion. But I'm like, hey, tough hell. Move right along. So trust me when I'm saying what I'm saying here.
I guess everybody agrees differently. I guess the point to take away is Jesus dealt with it the way he wanted to. Probably not the way that I thought he would have, but he dealt with it the way he wanted to. But at the end of the day, I had to do what I had to do. Mario he says I feel like compassion is the primary driving force of Christ's mission. However, it does not trump his purpose. Compassion is doled out according to what the accomplishment of the mission called for. Otherwise, we would see Christ raise every person from the dead, wouldn't we?
Ooh.
Got
Ooh. That was deep,
Evidently
Mario.
not, because he didn't even feel the need to go visit John or raise him from the dead.
Wow.
Or heal Lazarus from
There you go.
dying.
Wow.
He waited till Lazarus was properly well dead before he went
Proper
to
dead.
Wow.
On my other point, unless you got one,
No, I'm good.
I was very intrigued. 18 verse 15. It was when we talked.
Matthew 18.
We started talking about when your brother sins against you.
That's the chapter I wanted to go to because there was something lower down that caught me. So let's go with 15. Your first.
If your brother sins against you, you go and tell him his fault. Between you and him alone.
Where are we
Pause.
reading?
Matthew 18:15. Calvin's
Right
favorite
there is even interesting.
You said who?
verse. Calvin's favorite verse.
If your brother sins against you, not if you sin against your brother. He sins against you, go tell him his fault. Between you and him alone. If he listens, you've gained your brother. But if he chooses not to listen, take one or two others along with you, that every charge may be established by the evidence of the 2 or 3 witnesses. If he refuses to listen to them, tell it to the church. And if he refuses to listen to the church, let him be to you as a Gentile and a tax collector. I thought that was so deep because it starts off with, someone did me wrong. I should go tell you why you did me wrong. And a lot of times what I notice with us is that our apologies come with a but. I did it because blah, 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 blah. Rather than, here is basically saying, let him listen to you. You hurt my feelings. Accept it for what it is. If he gives you the but, call some other people in.
A couple. 1 or 2. It said specific said 1 or 2. Because again, it's gradual.
Right. 1 or 2 people, which is a lot of people. Now there's 4 of us.
3.
1 or 2. There's 4 of
It's
us.
4 of us.
There's me and you, and then OB and Shoney's not here. So there's 4 of us in here. All you 3 of you attacking me.
Four.
So that I can be, so every charge can be established by witness, evidence. Yo, so 3 people coming at me. Fine. Still don't believe y'all. Bring to the church, Dread. Like, we must start in the church. Everybody now, let's talk about it. And it's just like, it shows, in my opinion, I point out to me, was that a lot of times you don't know how you offend someone. And sometimes you have to take what they say and accept that you may have not meant it that way, but accept the fault. Because if you don't accept the fault, then I have all right to go say to somebody else who could come back to you. And I have all right to go tell the church. Then I have all right to tell Facebook if I feel like it.
Yeah.
And then I have all right to cut you off and treat you like a tax collector. Just by you not admitting to that you hurt my feelings. And being okay with that.
Yeah. And but remember, this is not you see I gained some weight, you asked me if I was pregnant and I'm not, and I was offended. This isn't little. This is a sin. This is, you knew you was messing with my husband.
No, not necessarily going to be that deep.
No, it says another believer sins against
We
you.
just spoke about all the different sins, though. Whereas we just talked about the cheeseburger and the shooting in the head.
Now here's the thing, but because if we, I'm saying that because there are certain things where you know. Oh, see, I have to back it up. Where did I read it? Where you have to shake off certain things. Certain things are not that deep, and so like this says, if another believer sins against you, go privately and point out the fault. And so this is something that is a sin against you. This is something that hurt your feelings, or cost you money, or destroyed something for
Not
you.
necessarily.
And this is not petty. What I'm saying is, this is not petty.
How do you know that?
Because petty is not a sin.
Petty
It's
can be a
mistake.
sin. A lie could be a sin, and it could be a little white lie.
There's no such thing as a white lie.
Well, I mean,
It's
it could
sin.
be
A lie is a sin.
What I'm saying is, it doesn't have to be something life-changing. It
I
could
just
be
think
like, yo, I saw you at the bodega. No, you did. You ain't seen me at the bodega. Like, you lied and said you saw me at the bodega. That's a sin.
No, I gave you an example.
But
where
you were
didn't
giving me
mean to-
extremes. It could be something
No.
simple.
I said simple, like I gained weight. I said I gained weight, and you asked me if I was pregnant, and I was like, no, but I was offended. You get it?
That ain't sin against you.
That's what I'm saying. It's not something like that. It's a sin.
But a sin
And
could
so
be
sin
something
could be you
small.
lied and you said I was at the bodega, and now my husband think I was chilling at the bodega.
Or I could be
versus something-
single and I was just not at the bodega, which makes it a lesser. Yes, there's a difference between
It
a
is.
lesser value. It could be something small as I just wasn't at the bodega.
But are you offended enough that you would feel justified to bring me and Jared in to talk to OB about he said you were at the bodega?
Yes, it depends on why he said. For example,
it offended you so much that we're gonna agree with you to convince him. Because remember, you look at
here's
the
a
whole
perfect
thing.
example. Here's a perfect example. You're living in the Bronx, right? Boom. Mom used to be like, yo, if I call this phone at 2:42 and you don't answer this phone, we have a problem. Right? Some odd number. If OB says I'm at the bodega, and I said, Ma, I wasn't at the bodega, I was picking up my book at school, this is a serious offense. This is between a beating
she gonna
and a
beat
no
you.
beating.
That's a serious.
I agree. That's
So what
offense.
I'm saying is, yes, depending on the situation of why, if I was or was not at the bodega, I really would be like, Ma, no, you have to call OB, no, call
Yes.
Shoni, call Jared.
Yes.
I wasn't at the bodega.
Yes.
It sounds small, but
It's
I'm
consequence.
not getting a beating for it though.
It doesn't sound small to me. It's something that, as a witness, I would witness for you because I know it's an offense. But there's certain things that are not. They might have hurt your feelings,
It's still a sin.
but it's not. No, it wasn't. I gave a great example. It wasn't sin. You just thought something. I thought.
She's not trying to make light of a particular sin.
Yeah, that's
She's
what I'm saying. I'm saying
a situation where it's not a sin, while you may be offended, may hurt you, but it's not a sin in us.
And that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying
that's what I'm
is,
saying.
But their
What I'm
examples
saying,
are small. Sins can be minor.
they
Yes.
can be.
Right,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes, they
That's
can
what I'm
be
saying.
small.
She's not discounting any kind
I'm
of
not-
sin.
I'm not
She's
saying-
just talking about an example
I'm-
of something that's not a sin, be
Yes.
it small or large.
So I'm trying to help you see that no matter what, even if it's a small sin, a sin is a sin. And that's why it's big enough and important enough for us to deal with it, for us to go to the brother, because it's a sin, and the sin led to misunderstanding. It could be minor
But correct
consequence
me if
or
I'm
no
wrong.
consequence.
But isn't
but
that
it's still a
normal
sin.
pattern that if Jared do something against me, that I got to wait for Jared to come and apologize to me?
That's what I'm saying. I gotta go to you and say it.
No, it's our practice,
No.
our pattern of dealing with.
That's how we tend to do it in our
Right.
culture.
I'm
yes.
not saying anything. He hurt my feelings.
But this is the thing. If you notice, the person that says, if the other person listens and confesses it, you won the person back. So here's the thing. There's certain times, like she says the Bronx, when she says that, that's one of the things why I'm afraid of saying certain things to people, because there's certain things my family and I, we say to each other, they're not offensive. It's not offensive, but other people are like, you know? So I'm scared. I'm scared to ask you a question, because to my family, how you doing? You know, da 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 da. But I say that to somebody else, and it's like she said this to me, and they look at me, and I'm like, you okay? You okay? And then I think we're good, and then they go up, and it's a whole big Facebook rant, you know, about
That's why I don't do Facebook.
mind your business, and you don't even know. But see, that's the thing. I'm oblivious. I'm oblivious that I've offended her. I'm oblivious that I sinned against her, because to me, you know, we had a conversation. The conversation is over. I'm going about my life. So then when she comes to me, and I'm like, you're bugging out. You're emotional.
But let me-
You're emotional. You're bugging
Let me
out.
throw a
Did
twist.
anybody else hear a song start in their head? Did anybody else hear it?
Go ahead,
go ahead.
Anybody online? You heard
Yes.
it? You heard it? Log into the chat.
Luke 17.
Such a sinner.
Luke 17. Elder, you
We could do-
interrupted me.
we could-
Sorry. I just, the song started playing in my head when she
No
said.
song played in my head.
You didn't hear it?
You're lying. The
And
song
you from the Bronx?
I did it. You know, I did it. Okay.
No, Luke 17:3 says, "Take heed to yourself. If your brother sins against you, rebuke him, and if he repents, forgive him."
And that's where that's what I just said at the beginning, right? If I say something to you, Shanice, don't talk to me like that. I mean, me, it's almost immediate. Don't talk to me like that. And with a TAWK. Don't talk to me like that. I don't talk to you like that. You know? It's not, and sometimes if I sit in it, I'm sitting in it because I think, okay, maybe I did something wrong. And so I need to sit in it. But I find that we don't, like the Bible's telling us, it says immediately, tell them they offended you. Mm-hmm. We hold on to grudges, and people are mad at you for 2 years, and you don't even know it. Mm-hmm. You don't even know. You treat them like
when you come up to them, do we have issues? No, we don't have issues.
Lie.
And here's the thing. And they've already skipped to the last step. They treat you like a tax collector. Okay? They treating you like a tax collector.
This is why I know we got beef.
You're not invited to nothing. You ain't bored with it. Everybody getting plates. Everybody else getting plates, and then just like,
you see pictures on Facebook and events you normally do.
Right. And
I asked you if we got beef.
And that's what I'm saying.
For a long time.
And that's why we have to listen to the Bible.
On face.
Whatever.
It's so bad.
Not yet.
So
old feedback?
the Bible in Luke and in Matthew is saying, listen, don't let this stuff fester. Talk to each other. Talk to each other. No, it's not an excuse. You can't be like, yo, next person who say something to me, I'm going to cuss you out. Wait, the person who offended you didn't cuss them out, so be quiet. You know? Be quiet. And I can't say that to people because then they get offended. But that's what the Bible says.
I'll do it for you.
The Bible says that. The Bible says, if you hurt my feelings, I need to tell you.
Oh, we will
Not
tell.
everybody else.
I was like,
And then
we'll tell
you-
everybody else.
They start at like the third step.
It's like a bad step. You're a tax collector. You're a tax collector. Wait. And you don't even know. So Matthew really hit it on the nose because he said, listen, you've gained your brother back. Meaning this is a relationship that's important. Relationships are important. We have fun, especially women. Women like saying stuff like, that's why I don't talk to other women, because they this and they this and that. No, God didn't say that. That's not in the Bible. You don't talk to other women because you have not matured enough to, from a biblical sense, to tell them nicely how they offended you. See, keeping it real, no. God didn't say keep it real and cuss people out, and then you go into the church and you pulling people from the church. Yeah, and I've said things.
So
to people,
truly says
the Bible
petty,
says it.
Petty for one is not petty for the other.
Good feedback.
Who said that?
Truly,
he said petty for one is not petty.
I believe she's a woman.
Okay, so
Definitely.
So my feelings are hurt, and it seems petty. I still need to say something to you.
What
I do.
I mean,
for both of our sake, because then I know not to say stuff like that to you. I know that offends you, but how do I know if you just stop talking to me? I really don't have a personal issue. I know it sounds like it. I just saw stuff like that.
unfazed.
Yeah. she's like, I don't care.
I mean, it's funny. I know someone who feels I offended them now.
So did you apologize to them?
For what? I didn't. Sometimes you should be offended. Let me understand.
So we need to bring 2 or 3 people for this one?
No,
I'm gonna
They need to come to her.
she said they're not coming to me. They're not coming to me.
They decided to take the road and say, "Oh my bad." I think I
But there's
offended
another
them.
verse that says, if you know your brother has aught with you, before you go to their worship,
that's
you
what
have
it
to
says.
So before communion, you gotta go to them.
I just wanted to take me. I'm joking.
She said, "You see these feet? You see these feet?
Not washed.
They ignore that one.
I say that to say this though. We did bring up a good point. I know this person has a problem. If I go to this person, they're not going to tell me they have a problem. They just act different. It's not till probably about June, July. They're going to be like, you offended me in March. Chick, forget it.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
But
You're right. You're right.
But
It's not appropriate.
we'll like Facebook stuff, we'll laugh about stuff, but I just know you were offended. I know you were offended. Your whole behavior changed. But I won't hear about it till like fall.
And
you guys say something, you're not going to do it.
I can't hold stuff that long. I can't hold stuff that long. Either I forgive you,
Next day I good. When the sun come up.
and let's not eat together. If we eat next to each other, we're good. I don't care what you said to me. It's done. But some people are not like that. And that's okay for them to be like that. But the Bible says, don't hold a grudge. Don't wait until.
Don't let the sun go down.
Yeah, or don't wait until you have a crowd of people. I'm sitting here with you just one on one, and you have an audience of people, and now you want to talk like, because you did. No.
I can say one thing that I did. My brother actually listens to me. Shout out. We have this thing where we don't go to sleep mad. Not because the Bible tells us not to. But tomorrow's not promised, folks. Like, you got beef with somebody over something small, and they die.
It eats you up.
It's gonna eat you forever.
If you value the relationship, yes.
It's gonna eat you. And honestly, the only people that can upset you are the people that you value.
That you love, yeah.
So, just off the tip of that, it's just like, is it really that serious? I mean, I might get a beating because you lied about me going to the bodega. But
we got to straighten it up before you go to bed that night.
I'm still gonna get the beating regardless at this point. Like at this point, I'm getting the beating. Mommy beats first, ask later. I'm getting the beating. The phone didn't get answered at 2:42. Right. So, but I'm saying that, folks. Moral of the story: whatever binds you in earth will bind you in heaven. It says that right after. That's the next verse.
Yeah.
And you don't wait for the offender to come. You let the offender know that they've offended you.
Yeah. And it gives both examples in the Bible where you did something wrong and it might hit you later, because it happened to me one time. Somebody it offended me, but I got over it. I got over it. I really was over it. But the Holy Spirit had that person text me and say, I realized that I could have done things differently. And I was like, thank you. I was over it. and I realized you didn't mean to offend me, so but I gave you a stank face, but I'm over it. I'm like, you don't need another stank face. But I gave you the stank face and the serious look because I wasn't in it when you were in it. But I got the response. The Holy Spirit helped that person completely clarify the relationship with me.
Gotcha.
Even though I was good. I was good. And that's how God wants us to be. Mm-hmm. He doesn't want for little things to have like an itch on us so that when time comes for us to stand shoulder to shoulder in war against Satan, we can't do it and we can't see clearly because we have beef. Well, no, what's a better word than beef?
Nothing.
No, beef is the best word.
That's
Beef
it.
I have no problem with the beef.
Okay, so
Unless you want to talk about veggie something.
Beef.
Fire.
and we treating each other like the tax collector, but we don't know what the issue is.
You know what's the irony of that? It was a tax collector that said that.
Yeah,
So he knows how it feels to be treated like a tax collector.
Yeah. You get ostracized.
So,
you get ostracized.
couple verses down, something I saw that I never noticed before, verse 24. So after Jesus has this conversation about go to your brother, talk to him, go to the church, talk to them, forgive them 70 times 7, Jesus gives this parable. And in this parable is a very interesting detail. Because we're using different weights and measures, if you don't have a Bible with a notation, you may miss this important point. Mm-hmm. When he had begun to settle them, this is the king settling his debts, one who owed him 10,000 talents was brought to him. Now you hear $10,000.
Mine says $1 million.
Right. So you think about money, you think about those kinds of things, right? Now, at the bottom of my Bible, there's a little note. A talent was more than 15 years' wages.
I have about 20 years of wages.
Yeah.
Right? 15 more. So it's more than 15, about 20 years of wages. This guy owed 10,000.
You pick them.
In his lifetime, he couldn't pay this back. Right? That's how much he owed.
Children.
He couldn't work enough to pay this back. I never saw that before. I just, 10,000 talents, 100 denarii. I then found that 100 denarii, 1 denarii is a day's wages. So he could have paid this off before the year was out. It wasn't nowhere. It's such a vast disparity of what is being owed that this is really significant to me.
Yes.
It's very significant.
Because it says a few $1,000s.
So whatever somebody offends me, just using this measure.
Yes.
Something that could be worked out by the end of the year. If you put a dollar value to it, what I owe God, I could never, ever do anything to what I owe Him. I could never make it up. There's nothing ever in my life or few lifetimes.
Right. Everybody paying.
And He wiped it clean.
Clean.
Like if I didn't owe anything.
He said, forget about it.
That I heard this story before and I understood the concept. But putting those metrics to it just took it to a whole another level in terms of relating to people who've offended me.
Yes. Because if you see, the king was like, okay, this is just business. It's just business. So you, your wife, and your kids are sell them and then give me the money and
make it back.
Yeah, so this is the thing. He was gonna sell his wife. What? He's gonna sell his wife and his children
and all that
everything that he had to pay this debt. So he's gonna sell people.
But even if he sold those people,
they're not worth it.
It was almost like selling a house, short of what the value is, just to get something back.
And it says here, out of pity, he forgave him.
Yeah, so he felt bad for him, and it was like, okay, don't worry about it. Now that's a big thing. That's a big thing to forgive, and it just shows how we could be petty. How we could be petty.
But it's also scary because of our pettiness. We're so unforgiving in the house of God with each other over
true.
Petty stuff.
It's true.
And God is laying out here a clear understanding of how we are. And we still turn around and keep doing this same old thing.
It's true.
Yeah, that's an excellent point because the talents was good enough for me, but to put it 15 years.
15 years wages.
Wages, right, for one talent.
You had to work 15 years to get
One talent.
Right, and it's a 10,000.
10,000
No, that's my point. I've never looked at it like that before. That's awesome, because like you said, there's never in your lifetime that you would be able to pay that back, right? Yet God, in His forgiving nature, forgives you of that, something you can never repay back. And then your neighbor, something that, given him time, can repay, and you treat him a whole different way. That's an indictment on yourself beyond measure.
That's why verse 35 is even more indictment. My heavenly Father will also do the same to you if each of you doesn't forgive your brother from your heart.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yes.
From your heart.
In your heart, yes.
To say I've never forgiven them, or to not forgive the way you've been forgiven. Right.
Yeah. And if you look at 23, okay, it's saying that the kingdom of heaven is like a king who decided to bring his accounts up to date with servants who had borrowed money from him. So what you gained from him, those talents and everything, you actually at some point took this and you benefited from it. So it's like I benefited from $1 million, right? And I'm not giving it back to you. I borrowed it from you. I benefited from it. My life has been that good. And that's something that we have to pay attention to. My life has been that good. And out of the goodness of my life, when I couldn't give it back to someone because I used it for my happiness, and then I could not give it back, and he forgave me, when someone else, compared to borrowing $1 million and how happy I could be, what I can buy a house and he started a family, all that kind of stuff. This person had a couple of $1,000s. The happiness that he gained from that would have been minor. And so it's almost like, man, I blessed you so much. You're happy. You had everything you wanted, and you don't have to pay it back. This person could not have been as happy as you are. They could not have experienced the blessings that you experienced because they did not borrow as much money per se. There's a possibility.
How do you marry that idea with the idea of being offended?
How do I marry?
Because that was the context of the conversation Jesus was having. That's where we started.
Because it's saying, if I'm blessed and I know that there should be, from my blessings, there should be enough joy in my heart, right? That I'm not as petty. You get it? I'm not as upsettable.
Yeah.
I have more joy, and because I've been given more. And I should have more understanding of why they haven't given me back or why they offended me.
Well, if you notice, the master went to the servant about being offended. The servant offended the master by not forgiving his fellow man. And he went back to him and was like, yo, Dred, did you just miss what I just did?
Yeah, because someone told. They were all upset.
But it just shows that a master is someone who does not have to address a servant. Mm-hmm. You're lower than me. Someone told me and I found my way to you. Yo, what did you just do? Did you forget that you couldn't repay me? Are you kidding? In the same conversation to show a parable, to be like, really? And now if a master can meet a servant and speak about offense, also on the same level can definitely speak about an offense, because you're not unreachable to me.
Yeah, but he did call him in. He just said, "Come back in here."
But even so,
yeah.
I mean, that's, if you think about it, that's petty. That's a petty people stuff. That's
You're right.
lower than me. It's stuff I don't
You're
really
right.
care about. I spent my time like, no. What are you doing?
Yes, exactly. But the offense, the people who were affected wasn't the king. The king forgave it. He wasn't worried about it. But the people around, and that's how we have to look at ourselves as Christians. People look at us and they're like, wait a minute.
Didn't you just get that big?
Weren't you just blessed? Aren't you a Christian? Shouldn't you be happy? And you treating him like that? After I saw how he treated you? You should be ashamed of yourself. And they were like, listen, you know that guy who you treated so nicely? The people saw. And so we never know how our flaws stink to the point where it reaches so many other people where they call for justice.
No, I was just thinking about what you're saying, and in our attempt to propagate the gospel, proclaim, share the good news,
Preach.
present, that we think that somehow our methodology is the problem if people not coming in. But you just hit the nail on the head. Is why do folks want to come into our mess? We Christians, right? And we can't get along, but we want them to come join us.
It's true. It's true.
We're Christians who've all had our debts forgiven, but won't forgive each other's debts.
There you go.
Yes, it's true.
There you go.
It's true. It's true. And we fester. Like I guess I can't even talk too much about Facebook because I'm not on there as much as I should be. And I'm saying should be because I really am not on there as much as I should be. But sometimes we get angry and we want to prove our point. So we'll put stuff from our church experience. Like, I was at church and this is what happened. Or I'm having problems and the church didn't do this for me. Or church folk are this and that. And then we don't realize that in that was a comment column, you have the 80 people who are like, see, that's why I don't go to church. See, that's why. See, church. See, God. Yeah, I spend time with God on myself. And the person who wrote that doesn't even stop and say, you know what? Wow, I was a negative example. I let my emotions on one thing that God could have helped me with get so out of control that I posted it for 400 people to see, and I was a negative witness, gave them another excuse not to get closer to God.
And all that stuff add up to a denarii.
Yeah. And then say,
well, at the most.
And then we still say stuff like, God is still good, but this is what happened with this person, or this is what happened with the church.
Denarii.
Yeah.
That's 100 days.
Got somewhere in the back pocket a sermon called "How Good Is He?"
It's in the back pocket, it's not in the front one.
No. See,
you gotta pull it out.
In the environment you're in, you can't have to put it in the back
You
pocket.
can't
You can't just pull it out at will.
Right. Not everybody gotta know it's back there. Shake
He good enough to give me a house. He good enough to give me a car. He good enough to give me a job. He's not good enough to clean up all that pettiness in my heart.
So, two other things right quick. How good is he? Two other things right quick before we close out. Unless somebody had something. Because I don't usually.
No.
There were a couple of things that stood out. The first is Jesus' response.
What chapter you
I'm over a couple of chapters. So let's go to chapter 14.
Matthew?
Yeah, where we were before. So John the Baptist gets beheaded. Jesus rolls away. He heals the people. He feeds them 5,000, loaves and fishes. Blah blah blah. Goes over. Right. So it's in this story I'm going to start. It's interesting.
He walks on water.
He walks on water to rescue them after he comes over from mourning or whatever he was doing in the mountains, dealing with John the Baptist's death and whatever else he was doing. Verse 31. Well,
where were we?
14:31.
14:29. And he said, let's go 28. Peter said to him, Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water. And he said, come. And Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water and came to Jesus. But seeing the wind, he became frightened, and beginning to sink, he cried out, Lord, save me. What's interesting to me is Jesus' response in 31. Immediately Jesus stretched out his hand and took hold of him and said, you of little faith, why did you doubt? I mean, he was afraid. It was wind and waves. He was walking on water. That's a legitimate
Nope.
fear.
I'm gonna tell you what. I don't think it's legitimate.
I'm just saying, I like that Jesus revealed the true nature of what the situation was. You of little faith. I say that because I'm going to come back to it because we could talk about it after. We skip over 15 we go to 16, 17, or 15, the very next chapter. Jesus heals some more crowds, right? Asks them to feed the people again, and nobody, says, okay. They say we don't have enough food. This after they did the 5,000 already. There's interest in their responses. Well, how are we going to do that? Dude, did you just see 5,000 get fed? You really asking this question like this? Then later on, Jesus says, following in chapter 16, they begin to discuss among themselves and said, he said that because we didn't bring any bread. And Jesus said, aware of this, he said, you have little faith. And I'm thinking, of all the things Jesus could accuse them of for having that conversation, why little faith? And I don't know if you can tie the two together, but it's interesting that their comment revealed their faith. Peter's sinking revealed his faith. And I guess I'm reflecting on how Jesus is intentional about revealing the nature of the heart condition that may not be obvious to everybody looking on the surface. Because I didn't see Peter sinking as a lack of faith. Neither did I see this question as being of little faith. And so it was interesting that Jesus was able to draw that out. Like on the surface, it doesn't look like that.
It's funny that you say that you don't see it as a lack of faith. Because all those stories, when I put them together, I was like, that's my life. God has brought me through some awesome things. But the reality of what's going on around me, sometimes I get caught up in it. Peter, even though Jesus was there, God could be with us. We know God's with us. We know God told us to do this specific thing. But we see the waves, and that's our reality. And in our reality, we're not focusing on God will. We focus on God can, but maybe He won't.
Which is the doubt part.
Which is the doubt part, because I know God can do anything, but when my fear, my doubt comes in is, will He? Because I also see in the Bible where one of His right-hand men got his head cut off because some chick danced for her stepfather, uncle. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And so, that's where knowing how connected we are to God, it is a personal reality that no one else can judge us on. Because Jesus called him out of the boat. Well, first of all, He wanted to come. He could have just been like, wow, that's cool. He's like, hey, let me come too. And Jesus was like, yes, come on. So He came, He's excited, and then for that moment, He's just like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense.
Let me clarify this right quick. Matthew said He became frightened.
Okay.
Jesus said He doubted.
But it could be the same thing.
No, fear and doubt are two different things.
I don't find an issue with either one of them.
Both are.
No, I'm just saying
fear and doubt
the difference in perspectives. It was interesting for me. It's if you walking on water and the waves start to, just the nature of. You've ever been like, for example, I was doing a jet ski thing, and when the waves get to a certain place, you could almost, the jet ski will probably stay afloat, but you feel like it's going to tip over, and you don't want to fall in the water because you really don't know how deep it is where you are, and the waves kind of swelling a little bit, and so that's
normal.
Scary
situation.
No, but I think how it's different is ain't nobody ever walked on this water. No one ever walked on this water before. Jet skis, I see people on the waves. I know that this can happen. I don't necessarily want it to happen to me, but I see it. Jesus out there on the water. Peter, you decide with your brazen self to decide that you want to go out there too. You even stepped out there. Like you were walking for a while.
Because that's faith, right?
And then you started to sink. I don't feel bad for Peter. You were doing it. No one else had ever done it. I've always heard the story being told, and this is as told by Ellen or whoever went to tell it, but this is the side that always made sense, was Jesus stopped focusing on the fact that Peter stopped focusing on the fact that it was Jesus that was bringing him across the water. It was more so, hey, Peter, I'm walking on the water. I'm Peter.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the faith problem came in.
Exactly.
Because I was more saying, I'm Peter, I'm walking on the water, versus,
self-reliant.
shoot, Jesus himself is having me walk on the water.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I think there's a difference between doubt and fear and lack of faith. Doubt, for example, for you to, like, when I've said it a lot of time, Jesus can do anything. I don't know if he'll do this. That could be, hey, I don't know if it's within his will. That doesn't mean he can. I just don't know if he'll do it for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's not within his will. Not that I doubt that he'll do it. It's just, I don't think it's within his will.
But it's Jesus' words.
Jesus says you have no faith.
He said, you have little faith.
Yes.
Why did you doubt?
Mm-hmm. I mean, as I said, this was as told by whoever. It wasn't my story. I'm just saying, I don't have sympathy for Peter because Peter asked to go out there.
Jesus is saying, you're doubting. This is a revelation of the measure of your faith.
Yeah.
Are you doubting my power or are you doubting your own power?
Whatever Peter doubted, whatever Peter did was, according to Jesus, Peter doubted. And that's why he sank.
I don't, like I said, I don't find a problem either one of those.
I wasn't having a problem.
No, I'm not. That's not aimed at you. I'm just speaking because you're staying in the context. Doubt and faith are being used in the context. To me, doubt is a lack of faith. And to me, but what I'm seeing here is what I've seen throughout Scripture is that faith is not a product; it's a process. As Sharika just said, he had to have faith to go out on the water. He didn't have enough faith to sustain on the water. Mm-hmm. Abraham had enough faith to leave his home and his family and everything, but didn't have enough faith not to tell the truth
About Sarah.
He had enough faith to continue on that the Lord was going to bless with a child, but not enough faith to believe the child was going to come from his own bosom. That was a process. Peter's faith was a process. In this case, he doubted. Later on, he doubted not once, not twice, but 3 times. But later on, he showed sustained faith. That happened. Shonice, these S's be messing me up. As Shonice said earlier, you know, our faith varies at times where we are.
Yes.
Okay, it's not a product. And what I read, when I see all of that, is encouragement. Because we're talking about Peter here. Mm-hmm. The same Peter that the Lord told him, before the cock crows thrice, you're going to deny me 3 times. Right? But we just got to read recently on somewhere I was reading, maybe it was a Sabbath school lesson. Well, you know, the brother was a pillar of faith. Well, he didn't start there. Go read Hebrews 11 and look at all the folks that you find in there.
Yes.
These were some jacked up folks, but they in the faith hall of fame because faith is a process, not a product.
Right, and that's the point I was making, was the way Jesus looked in and saw the true issue at play that Matthew didn't capture by just looking on the outside.
But see what I'm saying? I'm in agreement with you. To me, ultimately, fear, whatever form it comes in, whether it's walking on water or fear that somebody's going to kill you because they want to take your wife, is a lack of faith. I'm going to say this one more time. And to me,
most we usually on the same page, so I'm starting to wonder where.
Well, no, because ultimately, what we fear is the essence of not getting. I'm not talking about you cowering in a corner somewhere. What I'm saying, you feel that you lack. You feel that you're not going to get what you want.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. And to me, that's a lack of faith. Because if you have faith in it, you won't fear not getting it.
But listen here, he was afraid. Jesus said, "You have little faith."
But
so that I'm agreeing with you. I'm co-signing.
Right. But this is one of those
That's
times.
not clear communication, Sharika.
That 1/10 of a percent. That.
I'm okay with that. This is negligible. Negligible.
Yeah, because but what I'm saying, when I look at the Bible, Abraham had lacked faith, right? Well, why? Because he was afraid. Mm-hmm. Peter lacked faith. Why? Because he was afraid. Peter lacked faith. Why? Because he was afraid. There's a consistency in that in Scripture.
Yeah, and if you
lack
look,
of faith is not only fear, but fear is lack of faith.
Yes, because they looked around them and they saw the situation. They said, normally this is what happened. So Peter was like, normally when the waves hit, you fall.
Well,
And-
why
but
didn't they go
didn't
take the land? Why didn't they go take the land?
take the what?
The land.
Because they were afraid.
They were afraid.
They were afraid.
Yes.
Well, because there were giants in the land.
Yes.
But isn't it the same one that just led them out of Egypt?
Yeah, and the same thing with Abraham. He's like, this is the wife God gave me.
Yeah.
So no one's going to take her. But typically,
And the reality
she's
is,
beautiful. And typically, when someone comes in with a beautiful woman, they kill her husband and
a
take her away.
person don't practice good stewardship, financial stewardship. What's the usual reason why
They broke.
don't?
Sorry.
they have enough to return to the Lord, but they don't feel they got enough left to meet the expenses. So they are afraid that they won't be able to pay the mortgage. I mean, let's call it what it is.
All right, so I have a real life example, right? Boom. Airing out my dirty laundry again, so I can bring this.
Hold on, before you do that. Is that
This was us saying good night. Hold on. Was it really Peter doubting Jesus or what Peter saw? But when he saw the wind and was afraid and beginning to sink, he cried out, Lord, save me. Jesus is more concerned about our disbelief than death itself. He can deal with death. He can't do much with disbelief. To me, Peter was afraid of what he saw, the wind, not that he was walking on water. That's Peter. That's Keith and Mike. And Keith says good night from London.
what up? Keep you up late, man. Yeah, church in the morning. I'm playing. Go ahead, Shrika.
So boom, right? Remember somebody broke in my house, right? It's strange. In my new house, maybe about a month after I was in there, my alarm went off. It's before we had Pharaoh. It was just a yap. He wouldn't do anything anyway. Anyway, the alarm went off. I jumped out the bed. Enough time to react, to put clothes on, forget shoes, and run out the same front door that if the alarm went off, probably on the two doors you probably came through. But because I had Spider-Man last time, I figured Spider-Man could come through the patio door like before. Are we saying the fact that I got up and left my house out of fear is a lack of faith?
No, I'm not saying that at all. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that from a biblical perspective, all these people we're talking about, the element of fear was involved, ultimately was a result of their lack of faith in what God could do for them. But I'm not saying that I wouldn't have done the same thing. What I'm saying is that faith is a process. There are times when there may come a time, let me put it this way, when all that happens and you don't move.
If that happens again, me and God got issues.
But it may
But I'm just saying, we got issues.
And you said, you asked a question. See, I'm trying to think of a scenario where it would have shown you not having faith, and the not having faith leads to some type of sin. So if you called up a boyfriend and said, I need you to come spend the night because I can't be here by myself, I think that would be something to say. Okay.
So then take that then. Listen to this then. When it happened, I never went back in that house to sleep. I never slept another night in that apartment out of fear. Straight fear. I'm not going back in that apartment. Is that a lack of faith? Saved me once in it, and I said I'm not going back in there.
So we'd have to go and define fear.
Yeah, I'm talking about.
But I'm saying you're just saying that if you call somebody and say, but you just said if I call somebody and say,
no, I said call the boyfriend,
whoever. I slept at a man's house while I wasn't there.
I'm saying.
But so let's make it real. I slept at a man's house while I wasn't there.
So is that appropriate? Does that go into a sin? Because not going back into the house is like, that's not a sin. I'm protecting myself. But going somewhere where I could potentially sin, then that shows lack of faith.
While I would agree to some extent, if we stay in this story to draw the principles, or maybe another story, Peter's doubt, which Jesus described as being of little faith, which Matthew described as a fear of the situation that he was in, didn't lead him to make a sinful action
at all.
The only thing that happened as a result of what Matthew describes as fear, what Jesus describes as doubt, manifested as little faith,
was sinking.
That's it.
No,
So,
no sense.
Okay, wait.
I'm saying that just responding to my fear in a action that will cause sin is not the lack of faith.
It sounds like responding to my fear, period, is a lack of faith. Which is why I'm saying the fact that I didn't go back and or jumped out my bed the last time.
There's no
based
simple,
on that,
there's no simple action
sin.
on
There's no
Peter's
sin.
part of the
And see-
story.
and see-
Here's my
and-
point on
oh.
that. Okay, so it is.
And so when my thing.
No, listen to what I'm saying. So it is. Peter had a lack of faith. What Peter end up? Shrieker left, never gonna go by the house. What? So? I had some fears that I showed lack of faith. Them things when I face them head on today. Abraham took 25 years from the time he left to the time he trusted God enough to have the sleep with Sarah. Okay? That's my point. We keep focusing on the product, not the process, because all of us are not faith where we are. God gives us a measure of faith, and that faith grows.
And that's what we're talking. That's what we're trying to find out. Because what she's trying to say is, was how I responded as part of this process wrong?
And what Jared
Right?
is saying, and what Jared is saying,
Based
And
on the story.
based
Yes.
on Scripture,
Yes.
any fear, right, ultimately is a lack of faith. Is that what I hear you saying?
That's what this
That's what I'm
particular
saying.
story
Within this context,
with this story.
Right.
Maybe if we
But-
compared some other stories, we might see that there's an additional, because the story is narrow and limited.
Right.
I will say, however, based on
All the
Joshua, particularly Joshua 1, I would tend to lean to that and say yes.
But what I'm
that's-
saying is that
Fear is a lack
though
of faith because
if that
faith is
story
trusting
is
God.
the case, it is not a completed story.
Right.
And what I'm
And it's
look-
his faith in this instance.
And what I'm looking at in this story is it pointed out some things. It pointed out that he looked at ways and that he, more or less didn't focus on Jesus. And because of that, a consequence happened with him, right? That he was sinking, right? So even though there wasn't much that he could do out there, but the manifestation of his mind actually showed whatever sin he engaged in and allowed him to sink because he lost focus of Jesus.
But isn't that what we all do?
Yeah, we do.
We-
but what we're trying to say is,
Jesus said, the Bible
Isn't
says
that
that I will
something we should
never
learn not
leave
to
you
do?
or forsake you,
No,
that I will
call,
protect you.
call a spade a spade. I'm okay with us saying this was a lack of faith.
and that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying
And
is,
I am too.
if you,
Go-
I'm
But if
okay
you-
with me leaving the house being a lack of faith.
and my thing is, I don't think you leaving the house is lack of faith. I think that when you look at something else that might be more powerful, or you think it's more powerful than God's protection of you, I think that's what shows.
But that's
Here's
what that
what I'm-
was the
here's
seed.
what I'm- here's
But
what
he
I'm saying.
still thought the seed was more powerful than God.
And here's what,
That's
I'm, here's what I'm saying.
So I'm
I'm
Which is
not-
where the dog
what I'm
came.
saying is,
that,
I'm not saying that your leaving the house was a lack of faith.
and that's
But
what-
I am
I'm not
okay
saying
with
that
your
either.
leaving the house being a lack of faith.
So that's what I'm saying. Shonice is saying that it's not a lack
I'm saying
of
it's not.
No,
not
but I'm saying I'm okay if it is, because if we ultimately believe, if she ultimately believe, let's call it what it is, that God is is in charge of her life, can protect her while she leaves.
Because if there's a fire in the house, I'm leaving the house. I'm
Yeah.
leaving the house because it's clear danger.
But see, that's a clear. God would expect you to leave the house if there's a fire in the house.
And that's what I'm thinking
But
about
not
her.
necessarily somebody just trying to get in the house. If the
No.
guy is in the house,
We talk.
But she
No,
don't
God was in
know.
my house.
But
Oh,
she
he was in
doesn't
the house?
know. Yes,
Look
he
at that.
was.
Him and
He was.
we were in the
this is what I'm saying.
midst.
I'm not. Listen, what I said. I said
got
I'm not saying that her leaving the house was a lack of faith.
Yeah, no.
But what I am saying that even if it was, I'm okay with that because faith is not complete. Okay, there may come a time when she don't leave the house.
Yeah, we agree with that.
There have been situations where individuals have been attacked and their life has been threatened, and they call on the name of the Lord to people, and the people flee. That's been documented.
Yes, it has. Now here's the thing. We do agree on the point where this is a point of growth.
Yes.
Growth. My thing is, there's certain things where leaving is not a lack of faith. If let's say even if it was a different situation where I'm in a abusive marriage and I leave,
But
God can
my
change
point
him
right up front,
or
Shanice,
protect
is
me.
I do not believe her leaving was a lack of faith.
Yeah, and what I'm saying
in
is,
my view, it was good sense.
and that's what I'm saying. I'm saying it's good sense. I'm saying I don't believe that her leaving is a lack of faith. I'm saying our lack of faith becomes manifest when we see ourselves sinking. We see ourselves doing something or being something that where our fear manifests itself so much that something wrong happens.
So listen here, right? So D. Dan says Romans 14:23. And he that doubted is if he eat, because he eateth not of faith. For whatsoever is not faith is sin.
So whatever is not of faith is sin. Now, I don't believe that leaving an unsafe or potentially unsafe situation is a sin. I believe that when you seek protection and solace where it is not what God asked you to do, I think that can be
And
the
support
sin.
your view. There were situations when Jesus left a situation.
Right.
Yes,
So-
and that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Her
And so-
leaving is
now,
not.
wow,
But in the context-
that's a text to bring in. But see, that's one of those other texts where it has to be put in. We're not talking about whatever's up. Whatever is a faith is sin. But we're trying to determine whether that is lack of faith.
The
Not
only
whether
person who could, I would say, the only person who could determine that is Sharika,
yes.
right? But I will say that one of the reasons I brought this text to fore is because Jesus revealed Peter's heart.
Yes, his heart.
And so it's less about the action, but more about the mindset and
The
the
heart.
thought process. Because we can't judge the action on its face. Unless the
And what
action
I'm-
is revealing
and
the
what I'm
heart.
saying to you, in my personal makeup, I believe the same thing about me. That lack of faith he's really revealing in me is more of a heart condition.
Right.
Yes,
So I'm in
it's
agreement
true.
with that.
It's true. It's
But
true.
I can't say that for
Sharika.
I can't say
Sharika
that.
would have to look back and say, okay, did I doubt?
Right.
And
Did I not trust? Did I when I made this decision?
I mean,
and,
and
which is,
that's-
and that would, because let's say it was an unsafe situation,
Yes.
it wouldn't be a lack of faith to not stay. So that's why we can't judge the action. She has to now do that introspection about why did I leave,
Yes, and that's why we
and that would reveal faith or lack of thereof.
and that's why we're having this conversation, because there's some people who believe that I mean I've seen people in marriages where it's like, dude, this is not against God for you to leave this marriage. This is not of God. You know, look in your Bible. These are things that are not supposed to happen. You're going to end up dead. You know what I mean? And it's not about lacking faith. This particular situation is you need to move to safety. And so there are people who look in the Bible and they say, oh, if I leave, that's a lack of faith, that God can't do this and God can't do that. And then when they end up, 2/3 of their body end up scorched, and then they're like, why me, God? But everyone's saying, get out,
I mean, you can even take what's his name? Who's the guy who got stoned?
Stephen.
Steve just sat there and just got stoned. Like he probably believed that Jesus could have saved him, or God could have saved him. Even when
He saw Jesus standing up for him.
I would steer clear of
He's
judging judging the circumstance of any one individual's situation, because again, Jesus said to him, you of little faith, why did you doubt? Peter thought it was just fear. Jesus said, nah, son, it was more than that.
lack of
You
faith.
doubted me.
Yes.
You doubted me. But Jesus revealed that about Peter inside him.
His heart.
Peter probably now had to wrestle with that. Where did I doubt? How did I doubt?
So he can grow.
So that he can grow.
And that's the thing. We need to grow from one spot to another. But in order to grow, we have to be able to clearly distinguish the difference between when I'm lacking faith and when I'm doing the right thing for my well-being. And that's why we spent so much time on this, Jared, because some people don't know the difference between when am I being unfaithful to God by moving forward or stepping out or doing this, as opposed to when am I just fearful and this is a sin.
Now I was going to say, my point to that whole text is there's biblical evidence of other characters where their lack of faith was connected to their fear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yes.
And in each one of those situations, they didn't stay in that situation, but their faith grew.
Yes. Yeah. And Obi is saying, so no matter what, God's power is so redemptive that if you did do the wrong thing and you're seeking to stay connected to God, to reconnect to God, He will help you grow from that experience.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
I just find it interesting the way this Bible starts to reveal people's motivations. You know, it's always, that's what I'm seeing a lot this time, and I'm just using this to wrap up. You know, as we read Deuteronomy, God reveals why He does stuff, and He reveals the motivations of the people. Jesus did the same thing here. The guys were talking about, trying to figure out what Jesus was talking about, and said, it's because we didn't bring bread. Now, there's no fear here. They're just having conversation, and Jesus' response is the same as He said to Peter, you have little faith. You know, He's revealing in the things that we do and the things that we say, how we are revealing a lack of trust in Him,
Yes.
a lack of reliance on Him.
And my comment to that is I thoroughly agree. But in all those folks, particularly His disciples, when He told them over and over again that they lack faith while they doubt, is that those same disciples ultimately end up as powerhouse of faith.
Right, I'm only saying that.
No, I'm in agreement with you.
And I'm just saying that to say that He's trying to reveal what's really going on inside.
Yes.
So that we can get to that place of
absolutely.
powerhouse of
Yes.
faith.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So wherever an individual is now in their faith or lack thereof, there's still hope for you.
Right.
But understand that what God is trying to reveal in you is where you really are.
Because Peter was like, yeah, son, I'm ready to go die for you, son. And he's like,
Sure,
no,
right?
son.
Yeah.
Wait, tomorrow before the sun come up. Before the sun come up, you'll really see what's inside you.
Exactly.
The heart is deceitful.
Who can know it?
Who can know it? Who can know what's really going on in there? Take away, Shonice.
Okay, my
Oh,
take.
is there any?
Daniel said, I came on late. Was any discussion on Deuteronomy 28? No. Home tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, we didn't do that yet. But we did do that last year, Daniel.
Discussed, too.
Okay, my takeaway was still back from Matthew 14, and when John the Baptist died. There's going to be times in our lives where we need to seek balance more than other times. You know, we always have to seek balance, but there are going to be times when it might be confusing to us as to how to strike the proper balance. And I think that is the best time where we need to be prayerful, because God will reveal to us, you know, how much to take on, how much to let go, when to stop and take a moment, a peaceful moment for ourselves, and when to just keep going with the flow.
Need to investigate the difference between prevention and faith.
Explain. Sorry.
Because you know, you struck a chord and you're like, you know, people are being attacked and they'll call on the name of Jesus and they'll flee. Yeah, I'm not gonna get attacked. So I'm probably not gonna call on Jesus at that point either. So it's like, where does that line lie between prevention and faith? Where do you step out the water and carry on versus come back in? I'm trying to figure out where that line is, because I find myself sitting at the corner a lot now that I think about a lot of incidents, which one track or the other, And I just choose none. I just kind of don't do any of them. But
Well, let me just say this to you. I am a self-preservator.
right,
Okay.
I will
Everyone-
self-preserve.
So when I say the people what I'm saying is that there have been people whose faith has grown so much that they can do that. I didn't say O.B. Taylor was there. Okay.
But even people who do that, like I even find myself just being like, that's dumb. Like I don't even see it as faith. Like I'm just like I wouldn't even risk that. Like really, I'm not even going that far, you know. So that's why I'm investigating the difference between prevention and faith.
So
What was that recent movie that came out? The Prep Day.
Warren,
War Room. Didn't she do something similar to that? She have a situation where she was confronted with, I can't recall, she was confronted with something.
when they robbed the bandit was trying to rob them.
Yeah.
And she ate ice cream.
Yeah.
She was eating ice cream.
Right, and to me that was like that's dumb. Like that's what crossed my mind. Like I was like, this is unbelievable
you
and
know what?
dumb.
There may have been a time she thought it was real dumb.
Here's what I would as you process through, I'd recommend being honest about motivation and keep in mind that faith is reliance and trust in God. And there are times when you rely and trust on God, He says, you need to move from here. And there are other times when you rely and trust in God, He says, stay here, I got you. And so I would less be about the action, more about what is God asking me to do in this situation. And am I okay with doing what He says, regardless of what the situation looks like around me? Am I okay with walking towards Him, even though I see this wave coming and I probably should go back on the boat?
Yeah.
It all depends on what He's telling me to do in each circumstance.
That's right. 'Cause
Isaiah
there's some
speaks to
God
say
say-
that you'll hear the voice behind you saying, move to the left, move to the right. Faith is moving to the left when you think the best course of action is moving to the right. But because God said move to the left, you move to the left. That's faith. The doubt and the fear is, yeah, I know you're saying this, but that don't make any sense. That don't make any sense to me. I'm going to do this. And you can only know to me, the way the Bible is reading about faith and circumstance is situation by situation, person by person, and specific to what God is asking in each moment.
Yeah, because God did tell some people, just run.
Correct
You
me
know,
if I'm wrong,
Jezebel's
but
coming. Hide.
Didn't God get Jesus' parents to leave? To protect him?
Yes,
Why we couldn't protect them where they were?
he could have.
See?
But that's where the faith is, to
No.
just
Wow.
to do what He
There-
says.
There you go.
To do what He says, to trust Him. And it's not, faith is trusting Him and not trusting myself and what I think is best in this situation. So
Wow.
it may be faith to be saying, Lord, what would you have me to do, rather than what I think I should do.
That's right. And you
Because
think about
you see the story of David where he's coming up on the Philistines and he said, Lord, should we attack them? He said, yeah, Lord, go up this way. The next time he's presented with the exact same situation and he could think, well, the Lord will tell him to do the same thing. He said, Lord, what should I do? He said, yes, attack them, but this time pass around on the other side. It's that constantly seeking and checking in with Him about what He would have me to do in any given situation and allowing Him to do that and then just doing what He says. And that's where the faith shows itself.
Yeah, even when it doesn't seem to be working out, because there's times in the Bible where God said, "Go fight," and they got beaten, and then He's like, "Go get them," and He's like, "Wait, we lost a lot of guys, Lord." He's like, "Go get them." They went again, and they got beat again, and they're like, "Maybe we didn't hear you right." He's like, "No, you heard me right. Go again." He's like, "Wait, we're all gonna be dead," And God's like, "Go again, and they did. And with little men, they turn the whole thing around. And so it doesn't always work out right. I was saying how God had his manservant run from Jezebel. It's just one woman. But because God doesn't just control us like robots. He knows my plot against you. And He doesn't choose to strike me dead for the plot because He's given me the power of choice. But He is going to tell you need to stay out of her way because she's vicious. She's stealth like a bomber.
No. Well, I
Take
gave
yours?
mine earlier.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright. Thank you guys for your shares. I see there's a nice little paragraph in there. No, the sound did not go out.
I'm not sure what part of the conversation we're referring to here, or whether or not this is a specific message to me because we're having a conversation. But I'll read it out loud regardless. It might not make any sense. According to your faith, be it unto you. Relationship. ... Stay in the relationship equals faith. ...
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than losing confidence in the relationship based on circumstance.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Romans 8:38.
Mm-hmm.
For I am persuaded that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor powers, nor present, nor things to come, nor height, nor depth, nor any other creature shall separate us from the love of God in which Christ Jesus our Lord.
Yes.
I don't
Right.
see the relation between that and what we were talking about. But that's fine.
I'll add then Psalm 56, which was one of our readings this week.
It was
Yes.
Psalm 56.
We're
Well,
up
I
to
read.
Psalm 60 this week.
When I'm afraid, I'll put my trust in you. In God, whose word I praise, in God I have put my trust. I shall not be afraid. What can mere man do to me? This I know, that God is for me. In God, whose word I praise, in the Lord, whose word I praise, in God I have put my trust. I shall not be afraid. What can man do to me?
And again, my comment to those. See, I've been around here a little minute, and there are Bible promises all the time that we can hone in on. What I love about what we're doing here is we're getting to see God for who He really is, instead of finding our little pet text to comfort us in that time of moment.
Yeah.
Because that's the same folks that we quote are the same folks at one point in that time had the same lack of faith that we do.
Yes.
And we will have it again. Okay, but as here's why I see that, because that's a connection. As we stay in the relationship, don't give up on ourselves or Him, that in time our faith will grow and develop.
Yes.
And the key in that verse was, in God whose word I praise,
Yes.
in God whose word I trust.
Right.
And so His word suggests to remind ourselves that our God is a refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Now, Mario, if you're still on or was still on, he gave a nice illustration of what that actually looks like. He did a little word study in it. I thought it was powerful. I just don't remember it to quote it properly. He says, therefore we will not fear, though the earth should change, and though the mountains slip into the heart of the earth, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains quake at its swelling pride. Just saying, because I know who God is, I won't allow my circumstance. This is the reminder to ourselves based on the word, that we should not allow our circumstance, because of who He is, to influence how we respond to a situation. We allow His guidance to influence the relationship, to influence how we respond to a situation, because we know who we trust, because we know in whom we believe.
Nice.
Is that the last thought there? Or is that something you read?
Oh, I read this already.
Alright, cool. And with that, we're going to close, because we're right on time with the 2-hour mark, and Vanessa's giving me the thumbs up. Thank you guys for your contributions. I'm going to pray, and then I'm going to give the last announcements and stuff. Now, Father, we thank You for Your word. We thank You that Your word reveals Your unmerited favor and Your love for us, and that You're continually working with us to bring us to a place of relationship with You, where we trust and believe in who You are, and we allow that to inform the way we deal with our life situations. Help us to become more familiar with You through the study of the Word. Thank You for Your Spirit that reveals a little bit more. Thank You for the way You use the people around us who have varied experiences to contribute to that wealth of knowledge of who You are, that we can set up these memorials of the ways You've also led that we can always have this resource of information to say, I believe because he showed me who he is. Help us to stay faithful, help us to follow your word, and help us not to doubt, not to be afraid, and not to waver. Till the next time we meet, keep Kenrick safe where he is, bring him back safely to us with his family, and may more people come to fall in love with you the way we have through the study of your word. Is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Thank you.
Again, for those who are
Thank you.
on, we're here every first and third Friday. That means we're on again 2 weeks from now. If you don't already have a copy of the reading plan, you can download it at waterforthethirsty.com. We also have a forum on Facebook, Water for the Thirsty group, where in the 2 weeks that we're off, you can share your thoughts, you can share your questions, you can, share your perspectives, any things that you enjoyed from the readings. You can get perspectives from other people, just because we covered a lot, and clearly in the time that we have, we don't have the time to cover all of it. So take advantage of those forums, like the page, share, just share the readings with other people to encourage more people to be a part of this with us.
Drink up.
Any other thoughts, takeaways? If you live in the DMV and you're interested in joining us on the couch one time, hit me up. info@waterforthethirsty.com, info@waterforthethirsty.com, and we'll see how we can schedule having you on the couch with us. All right? Till the next time, drink up.
Drink up.
It left me high and dry.